All day long, Jesus would be in the temple teaching, but would spend the night in the open on the hill called the Mount of Olives.
Just beyond the eastern gate of Jerusalem, across the Kidron, on the lower slopes of the Mount of Olives, there was a garden surrounded by a dry stone wall, which may have belonged to one of the disciples. The place took its name, Gethsemane, from an oil press. Here, in the tranquility of an olive garden, by a grotto used for agricultural purposes, Jesus was wont to retire during his final stay in Jerusalem. Here, above all, amid the incomprehension of his disciples, he spent that last tragic night before his condemnation.
Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Stay here while I go over there to pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee with him, and he began to feel sadness and anguish. Then he said to them, "My soul is sorrowful to the point of death. Wait here and stay awake with me." And going on a little further, he fell on his face and prayed. "My Father," he said, "if it is possible, let this cup pass me by. Nevertheless, let it be as you, not I, would have it."
This site was frequented by the earliest generations of Christ's followers, which helped to fix the memory of the place itself. A sacred building was later erected here, as is mentioned by Egeria in her travel diary. Describing the night liturgy between Thursday and Good Friday, she wrote,
"So when the cocks begin to crow, everyone comes down from the Imbommon, the summit of Mount Olivet, singing hymns, and reach the same place where our Lord prayed, as is written in the Gospel. And he withdrew from them about a stone's throw and prayed. In that place there is an elegant church."
On the site where the Byzantine church once stood, the Ecclesia Elegans, mentioned by the pilgrim Egeria. Today, there stands a new basilica built early in the last century, in the 20s. The construction of this basilica, upon the ruins of the nearby Crusader Basilica, led to the unexpected rediscovery of ancient vestiges. The modern basilica, with its 12 cupolas, is called the Church of All Nations, since 16 countries contributed to its construction. The mosaic on the tympanum greets pilgrims with a portrayal of Christ in the act of offering his own and humanity's suffering to the Father. Inside, 6 columns support 12 uniform vaults. The light filtering through the blue, lilac and violet-coloured alabaster windows evokes the painful hours of the agony and is conducive to silence, concentration and meditation. At the centre of this basilica, and the memory of the agony it holds, is the rock. The rock, which was a constant and repeated feature of pilgrim accounts, also in the Middle Ages. The ancient church had been built upon the rock of the agony and betrayal. This rock is now partially incorporated within the new basilica, and we can find another part further south, on the walls and outside the new basilica.
He came back to the disciples and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "So you had not the strength to stay awake with me for 1 hour? Stay awake and pray not to be put to the test. The spirit is willing enough, but human nature is weak." Again, a second time, he went away and prayed. "My Father," he said, "if this cup cannot pass by, but I must drink it, your will be done." And he came back again and found them sleeping. Their eyes were so heavy. Leaving them there, he went away again and prayed for the 3rd time, repeating the same words.
An olive garden was most likely from the very beginning a part of the ecclesiastic complexes erected on the site of the agony. In medieval times, Muslim landowners divided the area into various lots in order to derive greater profit from the visits of the Christian faithful. In 1666, the Franciscans purchased the Field of Flowers, or Flowery Garden, as the site was called at the time. Today, a guided walk takes pilgrims among 8 ancient olive trees, allowing them to imagine how the place would have looked in Jesus' time.
Then he came back to the disciples and said to them, "You can sleep on now and have your rest. Look, the hour has come when the Son of Man is to be betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us go. Look, my betrayer is not far away."
During the dramatic night of Passion, Jesus, together with Peter, James, and John, met the other apostles in the grotto where they had left them. And from here, in the agonizing vision of his imminent end, he went to meet Judas, who betrayed him with a kiss, while a troop of soldiers of the Sanhedrin surrounded him. The Grotto of Gethsemane measures approximately 19 by 10 meters. Numerous graffiti in different languages and from different periods, left by pilgrims on the plaster at the bottom of the walls and on the ceiling, bear witness to practically uninterrupted devotion. Following restoration work made necessary by the 1955 flood, Father Virgilio Corbo had an opportunity to study the grotto. He brought to light the primitive structure existing at the time of Jesus, with an entrance opening to the north, remains of an oil press, and a cistern that collected the water which fell from the ceiling. A more recent restoration offers insight into the development of the refined 12th century frescoes, with which the Crusaders sought to embellish the grotto, entrusted to the Franciscans' care since 1392. Archaeological investigations have shown us that in ancient times it was used as a storeroom, depository, or in any case for agricultural or a variety of purposes. At a later time, precisely because gospel memories resided here, probably in the period during which the church was destroyed, this grotto became a place of worship and was also used for important burials over many centuries. The pilgrimage to Gethsemane transports us in time and place to the salvific mystery of this holy site. Faith enables us to partake of it. When you come to Gethsemane, there's no need to make any plans. He already made them with these words, "Remain here and watch with me." Going further into the recollections of pilgrims, another memory is that of the Virgin's tomb. In addition to caves like this one, used for agricultural purposes, the whole area of the Kidron Brook and Gethsemane had many tombs. One tomb in particular has been considered to be Mary's. A tomb that was hollowed out of rock, an arcosolium near other tombs, hence a tomb for a single burial. A tomb that was immediately isolated from the rest of the rock and preserved in a crypt beneath a church that was built precisely to commemorate the event narrated in the Apocrypha of the Dormitio Mariae.
This morning take the Lady Mary and go out of Jerusalem by the road that leads to the head of the valley, beyond the Mount of Olives. There are 3 grottos there, a wide outer one, then another inside, and a small internal chamber with a raised clay ledge in the eastern part. Go and place the Blessed on that ledge.
Inside the Basilica of the Assumption, 48 steps lead to the venerable crypt that holds the empty sepulchre of the Virgin. Mary is the first to be redeemed, the first creature to follow, in both body and soul, Christ, the Son of God, her own Son, in the ultimate glory of heaven.
As Jesus said this, he was lifted up while they looked on, and a cloud took him from their sight. They were still staring into the sky as he went, when suddenly 2 men in white were standing beside them, and they said, "Why are you Galileans standing here looking into the sky? This Jesus who has been taken up from you into heaven will come back in the same way as you have seen him go to heaven."
The Imbomon, i.e. the summit of the Mount of Olives, 808 meters high, is consecrated by Christian and Muslim tradition to the memory of Christ's ascent to heaven following his resurrection. A splendid central plan building annexed to a larger complex that comprised several levels was erected by the Emperor Constantine and his mother Helena on the rock upon which Jesus was said to have left his footprint as he ascended from the earth. Archaeological excavations conducted by Father Vigilio Corbo uncovered the ruins of the ancient sanctuary, the ruins of what must have been the ancient round-shaped sanctuary, most likely a rather monumental mausoleum serving to commemorate that gospel event. The octagonal enclosure and aedicule, today open to visitors, are of Crusader origin. In the 12th century, they replaced the ancient mausoleum, near which, in the meantime, fortified male and female monasteries, founded by Saint Melania the Younger, had also been built. In the conception of the Crusader architect, the aedicule, with arches resting upon slender columns surmounted by capitals, was logically open to the sky. But when ownership of the site passed into the hands of Muslims who erected the adjacent mosque, the aedicule was covered by a dome. In the sober simplicity of this place, it is a pleasure to once again hear Jesus' last words as recorded in the Gospel.
"All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go, therefore, make disciples of all nations. And look, I am with you always. Yes, to the end of time."
He was praying in a certain place, and when he ceased, one of his disciples said to him, "Lord, teach us to pray."
God your Father knows your needs before you ask them of him. Therefore, pray, "Our Father in the heavens, may your name be made holy. May your kingdom come. May your will be done, as in heaven, also on earth."
Another mystical grotto, known as the Grotto of Jesus Teaching the Apostles, became the heart of the three-aisled basilica that was built in the 4th century at the initiative of Constantine. It was architecturally connected with the round chapel of the Ascension. Egeria identified the great basilica, which had the crypt in the middle and extended to a total length of 70 meters, by the name Eleona, a Greek word indicating the olive grove. The grotto is identified as the site of the teaching of the filial prayer with which Jesus, most likely in Aramaic, invited the disciples to turn to his Father and our Father.
Give us our daily bread today, and forgive our debts, just as we have forgiven our debtors. Do not bring us into temptation, but rescue us from evil.